Welcome to our discussion about different ways of seeing the world. Let's begin here. If you want the law of attraction explained, you have a decision to make because there are two ways of explaining it. There's what we'll call the one world view of the nature of things, and there's the virtual world view. One world can be an excellent place to start, because the idea of a law of attraction may be new, but everything else is left in place. It leaves physical reality as an unchallenged concept and gives you some simple principles about the way in which your thoughts can change your world. These principles are: focus your energy and attention on the things you want and not the things you don't want, because that focus determines what shows up in your life. And your feelings are important, because feeling good means you're heading towards the things you want, and vice versa. And there's nothing you cannot be, do, or have. There's nothing you cannot change. These are truths, and they expressly define the absolute power you have to determine your destiny. If you can take these ideas on faith, you cannot go wrong by simply following that path. But then many of you want to understand the logic of it all. You start asking the how and why, deeper questions. And if we are going to give you clear answers, we need to start from an altogether different place: the virtual world view, and here's why. One world simply superimposes the idea of a law of attraction on top of a reality as it appears to be. For example, it takes the world at face value, as something external and shared, as something you have to deal with, as a one-version continuous thing. And yet what it says is, your thoughts can change your world. And that's true. And if your thoughts can change your physical reality, that world that you are sharing with everybody else, then their thoughts can also change yours. Then what happened to that absolute power of yours? That word nothing in the promise, there's nothing you cannot be, do, or have, immediately gets qualified with buts and accepts, and pretty soon you're left with not much of anything. At this point, some of you start seeing the law of attraction as something you can use or not use. And if you use it and those others don't, then you'll get what you want. Or you may decide that it's important to get others enrolled in your ideas so that the numbers are on your side. You organize synchronized days of prayer or meditation or happy thinking about world peace to bring about a shift in this shared planet of yours. All of this can be fun to do, but it's based on a distorted idea of the nature of reality. If you're coming from that place, there are no logical answers to your deeper questions except have faith. So let's look at the virtual world view, which recognizes reality as an illusion and explains how you create it and how you change it. Now, we acknowledge that this may be a radical change from the way you're used to seeing the world. Many law of attraction gurus shy away from trying to explain it all. Whoa! We have to come to them based upon where they are. And we agree. That's way too difficult for people to understand. Respectfully, we disagree. These concepts may be new, a new and unfamiliar way of looking at the world, but they are simple. Unfamiliar doesn't mean complex. Those subjects you studied at school were complex. That's why it took you months and years to learn them. Learning to drive is complex. But once you've learned to drive, driving, for example, on the other side of the road in a new country, is not all that complex. It's just unfamiliar. It's a new way of looking at things. The advantage of virtual world is, once you get it, you know the how and why of everything. The answers make sense. Of course, if you're new to the subject, we'll always try to meet you where you are and lead you to it in easy steps. But sooner or later, we find sooner works better. If you want answers to those deeper questions of yours, answers that make sense, virtual world becomes way more easy than one world. Some people end up somewhere in the middle, but that no man's land in the middle never quite gets you to the simplicity at the core of it all. And you'll know when you are there, it feels like for the first time, you have all the pieces of that jigsaw puzzle you're putting together. If you're seeking to really understand how to create what you want, virtual world is way more easy than one world. What is absolute and foundational about you is that when you choose and align with a new belief, a new matching version of everything instantly wraps itself around you. So the virtual world definition is you attract into your experience, moment by moment, unique to you, a version of you and your physical and non-physical worlds that matches the sum of your chosen beliefs and expectations. It's more than just you're creating your story. You're certainly doing that. But you are your story. You're also creating you. Once again, we encourage you to see that this is not a complex idea. A huge idea, maybe. An unfamiliar idea, maybe. But at the core of it all, it's elegantly simple. Let's illustrate this with a few examples. From a 2004 quote this week of Esther Hicks channeling Abraham. Even though there are billions of people going about it in a way that is different than you would choose, there's no right or wrong way. In other words, bless them all and get on with the only thing you have any power about, which is opening or closing your vortex to your natural state of well-being. Abraham also often says, one person who is in alignment is more powerful than a million who are not. The message here is that you can ignore those other people and how they're doing things. The only important thing is that you get yourself into alignment with what you want. Now, we will be the first to say that in this community, we are standing, so to speak, on the shoulders of the magnificent foundational teaching work of Abraham through Esther Hicks. And there is enormous appreciation here for their contribution. That said, here's what we would add to this. All of that is good, but how can you ignore what those others are creating? Bringing it a little closer to home, if your partner, for example, wants different things than you want, can you just out-create them and override their desires? Can you see the complexity we're heading into here? What determines who gets to choose what? The law of attraction works for everybody. Is this a creation competition? The answer is simple. You're not competing with others because you're not living in a shared world. The world exists in infinite versions. It's a moment-by-moment creation in your mind. So here's how we would word that statement. Even if you've chosen to believe you live in a world with billions of people going about things in ways other than you would choose, simply recognize that it's your creation. So don't fret about people out there, because the version of them you intersect with will always be a match to your expectations, even as the version of you that shows up in their world will always be a match to theirs. There's nothing about any of it that you cannot change by making a new choice and lining up with it. If we were in a Hay House event with, let's say, Wayne Dyer, who was seeking to have the law of attraction explained, and he got emotional, say, over the subject of big agribusiness, genetically modifying crops and strong-arming the market to thereby make huge profits, we would seize the opportunity to get out of one world mode and into virtual world mode. We would explain to Wayne that he is creating the particular version of the world that he is complaining about. And by pushing against it, he is focusing on it and creating more of what he does not want. What he needs to do, all he needs to do, is change his story by choosing to expect something different. From Abraham, March 2010. This reality that humans claim and cling to is such an arbitrary thing. You are billions of people with billions of different perspectives of life experience, literally creating billions of different worlds and yet pretending it's all one big world that you are all sharing equally. And it's not even close to that, you see. You are on these vibrational islands with law of attraction spinning on your individual vortexes, giving you exactly what you are a vibrational match to. This is Abraham at their best. This is the virtual world view of the nature of everything. Are these radical ideas? Perhaps. Is this an unfamiliar way of seeing the world? Once again, perhaps. But it's not complex. And can you see how that fundamental understanding leads you to simple answers? And can you see that without making that shift, you're always trying to extrapolate from an incomplete understanding of the way things are? We encourage you to allow these concepts to become familiar, because once you do, the answers get to be so much easier to come to and so much clearer and unambiguous. And what that means is confidence. The confidence to build new habits of thinking and thereby change the world you experience. And now we move to our longer discussion